Hey, thanks for tuning in. So, um, I wanted to talk to you guys about how I'm being mind read. I've recently found myself about a year ago um, with voices in my head, um, which I had to discuss with my wife, and I had to discuss with the authorities and all types of people. And everything has led to the definition of paranoid schizophrenia, that I'm hearing voices in my head due to paranoid schizophrenia, um, which is not the case. And I'm going to try to explain to people why. And people are being hacked. So I have a 2017 Chevy Cruze, and I have two iPhones in the house, and I have a tablet, and I have two PCs that are currently running. But what's happened is I got a virus in my house, and then the virus started to attack the phones, and the phones got into the car, and the car won't lose the virus. I tried to take my car to Chevy, and they're basically like, "What are you talking about? You have a virus in your car?" Um, and it's a little hard to explain. So what you've got a virus with power. Um, you have a situation where you have wireless devices attacking power to provide um, amplification or some sort of sound registry to your head. And what you've got glass and metals that are around your house, providing speakers um, to your head. And you're like, how is glass and metal providing a speaker to your head? And I honestly can't answer all of it for you, but I know that glass and metal, as it vibrates, can create a sound, and somehow that sound is being selected to your head and your head alone. Because like, as I'm around my wife and my son, they don't hear it. No one hears anything, and I tried to think about who I could reach out for help. I reached out to the police. I reached out to the FBI. I reached out to a gaming company to try to explain to them what's going on. Um, Ultimately, what's happened to me is I've lost my home. My wife got into a car accident during that time, so now we're down to one car. I did put myself into a hospital for 7 days, where I was able to de-energize, and I'll explain that to you a little bit more. But ultimately, what happens is your body becomes so exposed to energy that it makes it a tremendous amount easier for these people to talk to you. So by grounding myself out and putting my feet down on concrete, staying down in a basement where you've got concrete block walls and you've got metal poles, like, so by grabbing onto this pole, I can actually de-energize my body, which, some of this might seem a little bizarre, but I'm putting this out there, and in a plea for help for myself, because no one is acknowledging the fact that this exists. I'm really not looking for any help regarding paranoid schizophrenia, because I can ultimately get into the hospital and stuff myself, and I ultimately know that people don't understand exactly what's going on. Like I said, I reached out to the F.B.I. There was no, I tried to go as high as I could with this, and everyone's a big failure. So, I'm just trying to, put out there to people that a virus can spread into your power lines, and then that power can then be used to energize your body so that sounds can be picked up by your hair, by your ears, using them as antennas, and so on and so forth. I have no idea where this technology could be coming from. I've tried to do research online to see what's going on, and I know MIT is working on a new device, brain, text to brain, and brain to text, so that you could just think it out. But that's a device that you have to attach to your head. And for me, I don't have to attach anything to my head, and it's like, how could this be going on? Um, so as I de-energize myself, I can completely uh, eliminate a lot of the sound. But what's happening is that, as you know, my wife shows back up to the house with the car, um, things start to become hot again. Also, I live in a home right now with like 6 adults. So, being able to control their devices and so on and so forth is also something that can't be done. Um, I found that, once you've got a device with a cracked screen on it, you ultimately have power exposure. Um, because power can be leached directly off that LCD screen, or stored there so that it can re-ping the port at the bottom of the iPhone and so on and so forth, so they can basically re-energize the device, access the Wi-Fi within the device. And what I'm finding is that it really seems like they might potentially not be accessing the Wi-Fi through your regular terms. And it becomes very scary when you start thinking about the fact that we have virtual private networks everywhere, that people can be logging on through any IP and trying to hide themselves without providing any type of geological reference to where they are. Um, and due to the fact that, like I said, I reached out to the FBI and I reached out to a major gaming company, hoping that, they had been dealing with some hacks and so on and so forth. To try to, get some resolution, some answers. um, didn't happen. So I spent a tremendous amount of money trying to travel myself around. I've gone out to California, I've gone out to New York, trying to get answers, trying to reach out to family, because this is a crisis for me. um, I have to be home to watch my son, and how am I supposed to watch my son when I have voices sitting in my head? And the bottom line is that I can eliminate these voices on command. I can sit here and I can grab a poll for like 500 seconds, and I can make everything go away. And my house was tremendously loud, tremendously loud. And what I was able to do is I was able to go around and put tape on the windows and stuff, and by stopping this vibration, I can ultimately quiet it down a tremendous amount. So I've got a functioning situation, but it's not functioning enough, and no one's paying attention to it. So it's like the last resort of what I have right now is to reach out to YouTube and to just say that I'm being attacked, and no one wants to pay attention to this, like, at all. So if you have anything to say to me, if you have any type of story that might correlate to what I'm saying, I figure that there's got to be plenty of IT guys who've been hacked in some way, shape, or form, and they've got to be in some sort of disclosed situation where this type of security isn't being spoken about right now. But the bottom line is people are being attacked in their homes. It's like I've been a painter and doing construction and doing all types of construction stuff my whole life. When I come home in the evenings, it's to play some games and to be around my family. And once I started to get attacked, it was in my mind, and your mind begins to think, if you're being attacked, my son could be attacked, people could be talking to my 6-year-old son in his head, and I've sat here and I'm listening to him, and sometimes he says some funny stuff that, makes me feel like, someone's trying to talk to this kid. So let's get into what type of stuff they're talking to me about. Well, I got, people saying asshole over and over and over again in my head. I have a tremendous amount of repetition. So no matter what I'm saying, I'm pretty much hearing myself repeat. They've tried to come to me from religious angles. They've tried to come to me from gaming angles. They've tried to come to me through family angles. They've tried to come through me through work angles. They've tried to come to me through car angles. They've tried to come to me through other country angles. The bottom line is that every angle that they come with is it's just completely inconsistent with the other. So, these people are ultimately just playing tremendous games with people and with their head, and not allowing people to focus. I've lost my whole life now. I find myself in November living in a basement because of the fact that no one can help me or recognize this or help me get it out of my house. Um, we've ultimately needed our car because of the fact that our finances have been struggling. I had done a tremendous amount with our credit to try to float through this situation, um, which ultimately left me in a position where I couldn't trade in my car to try to get a new car, or so on and so forth. And even getting a new car left me scared because I said to myself, it's just going to jump back from the phones, it's going to jump back from the computers in the house, it's going to jump back somehow. Or, I was saying to myself, maybe the 2017 Chevy Cruze isn't a proper Faraday cage to be able to ground itself out and to be able to protect its own parts and so on and so forth. But the best way I was able to test my virus was actually to put the duct tape on the glass of all the windows in my car. So I was driving around, and no matter where I was driving around, I was hearing a tremendous amount of voices and people talking to me, and it left me in a very frustrated, angry state, yelling at these people constantly. And the once I put the duct tape up, all the voices couldn't really hear. Well, they could hear me, but I couldn't hear them. So they were still listening to me, but they weren't talking to me anymore, which gave me back my focus, but didn't change the fact that people are stealing our creative thoughts. So you're not even talking about like being able to attack children. You're not talking about being able to attack adults. You're talking about CEOs. Like, let's say a CEO of like a major company decides to make a major deal. People can potentially be listening to them, and you're like, well, a lot of people are thinking, oh, if they just secure their devices and so on and so forth. It's really not the case, um, because through grounding things out, I have been able to eliminate a tremendous amount of noise, and that's been the main trick to everything, is to get everything grounded out. And like I said, with capacitors and things that are storing power, like a battery operated device. So what I found is, as I was powering down the house and as I was powering down the car, I was having my wife take the car, take the phones, take the computers, and take everything out of the house. But once everything was taken out of the house, I still had stuff going on, and I started to, say to myself, what's in the house still? And what I had, little McDonald's toys and anything of my kids' toys, and like an air conditioner remote and a TV remotes, little stuff like this. I realized still had a complete electrical circuit in it. The batteries with all that still powered up, allowed the virus to be trapped there, and then for them to be able to reping the house's electrical through the outlets on the walls and so on and so forth, basically to re-energize their virus. And once they had their signature, or their login or whatever, they're free to roam as long as it's not getting grounded out. So now I find myself in a position, where my wife's working part-time. She'll leave the house for a little while and she'll take the car away, and I'll listen to the house die. Every day I'm listening to the house slowly die. So what I'm talking about now is the amount of sound that's being put into my ears or into my head, however you want to call it, is just slowly becoming smaller and smaller and smaller throughout the day until my wife drives back with the car, and then it heats back up. And due to the fact that I have people living with us, I find that it never really completely dies out, because someone's always there with a phone and has Wi-Fi exposed, and these devices are constantly just leaving me exposed. So now I'm finding myself in a position where I don't want to be around my wife. I don't want to be around my son. I don't want to be around anyone, because of the fact that I can't be myself. And I can't be anywhere near it. I can't be good to my son because I have, no focus in this area. And people are just constantly trying to look at this as a medical issue when this is not in any way, shape, or form a medical issue. People are just not realizing that power is exposed and that power is being grabbed onto and devices aren't properly being shut down um, in such a way that they're not left to be chained into this chain of events that's going on all around. Um, so I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to put the word out there. I'm trying to start a communication with people, um, because I feel that a lot of people are just maybe holding on to some of this information, maybe seeing what's going on and not being able to explain it properly. Um, when I went into my intake facility, I was immediately concerned about every single person that had paranoid schizophrenia. So I'm like looking at other people that have been taken into these hospitalizations that are hearing voices in their head, and I'm saying to them, are they being attacked? Because as I go into the institution, I talk to these people, they're talking clear as day to me. Um, some of them are a little off, but some of them, seem like the institutions are protecting them themselves, because most institutions are Faraday cages. You've got these tremendous fences on the outside, and you've got concrete block walls. So it's like, even as a person is getting hospital assistance, they're honestly not even being exposed to their problem anymore, because the problem was outside, trapped in their house. So all types of thoughts go through your head. Like, could it be a medical doctor that's trying to help flood the industry in the local area, um, by creating a feeling that people are sick when people are not sick, um, so on and so forth. But like I said, they're saying to me that they're a third world country. They're saying to me that that they were family, that they were friends. And this is another thing that was happening, is that as I started going through all this, I became fearful of reaching out to people, and I stopped reaching out to people. And the voices that these hackers can use are only the voices that I've called people, or people that they've been around me, so that they could record it and create some sort of um, voiceover where they're using the person's voice. You're talking about very, very high tech, in my opinion, sampling, because you've sampled a voice for about a minute or so, and now you're recreating a person talking using that voice. But they can only use the voices that they've been exposed to. So, like, during this time, I really haven't reached out to my family too much, because of the fact I didn't want to disturb them. My family's older, so they really don't have any of my family's voices, but I've reached out to friends, um, and they have used my friends' voices, and these are voices that they've heard through the phone. Um, and the only other voices they've used are voices around the house, of people that they're hearing that I'm around on a day-to-day basis. So, like, when I was going to work, they were using all my workers' voices, and they were saying things like, like, people don't respect your work, yada yada yada, and they're like talking in my head, just trying to amp stuff up. They're just constantly trying to amp stuff up. So if you ever get any voices in your head, um, you know, I would definitely, reach out to authorities, potentially show them this video to show them that, there's some sort of symmetry between what you're going through and what I'm going through right now, potentially, if you find yourself in this position, because I find that people are tremendously exposed, um, and that they're not looking at the situation the right way. But like I said, if you're hearing voices in your head, I think the best thing for you to do is to start to evaluate your electronic equipment, your PCs, your phone, and your car. And just remember that your car can be a transportation point. So you could get the virus out of your house, and then you could go out to your car, and your phone will end up bringing it back in, because you've gone out to your car. Your car can also energize you. Like I said, the body was getting energized itself, so you might find yourself in a situation where you're trying to ground out your own body, getting from your car to your home, or your car is parked too close to your home. And it creates this tremendous nightmare. So now, due to the fact that I finance a car, I can't trade in my car. I'm trapped. I was in a position where my leases weren't up on my phone, so I couldn't trade that in. I tried to swap out a couple SIM cards and, reground out the phones to see if I could create an endpoint where it would, just stay within the house or within the phone, and I'd be able to go out and do my jobs and so on and so forth. But that's not the case. So, I leave this out there for people to discuss. I'm sure there's going to be a tremendous amount of naysayers, like, go get some help and so on and so forth. And yes, my focus is dwindling. It definitely is falling apart. But I am going to get as much help as I need, because I have to be able to provide my family the right way. But I know for a fact that this is a hack, that this is a computer hack that revolves potentially Wi-Fi, satellite, definitely electrical power, which is something that really isn't discussed a tremendous amount in viruses, and selective audio. And what I mean by selective audio is that I can sit in a room with my wife and my son, and they will hear nothing, absolutely nothing. But I can walk around that room, and I can put duct tape up on little pieces of metal that are hollow. So like your HVAC unit can create a tremendous system for them to talk to you through the house. So by putting a couple pieces of duct tape here and there at the loud points or whatever's creating a lot of vibration in your system, you can quiet down that noise so that you're not hearing as much with the voices. And I found that windows, double pane glass on the exterior of your house, by putting tape on those windows, was a tremendous help. And also, like a light fixture hanging from the ceiling, if it's got some cones around the bulbs themselves, that'll also be a tremendous help. So, I'm going to shut this video off for now. I'm going to collect my thoughts and probably come back with a little more. I'll see you in the next one.